I got to enjoy the streams while I have them. RFK Jr. says he will send people taking Adderall to labor camps. He's calling it a wellness farm. I've heard this one before. What happened to Vosh? Oh, he got sent upstate. RFK Jr., independent challenger for president, anti-vaccine activist. Okay, so this is an older article. June or July 25th, I see. But not that old. Can I get the clip? I want to see the clip. He extolled this unworkable idea during a videotaped broadcast last week billed as a Latino town hall. Could I get a timestamp for that, please? Please?
And I'm going to create these wellness farms where they can go to get off of illegal drugs, off of opiates, but also legal drugs, off of psychiatric drugs if they want to get off of SSRIs, to get off of benzos, to get off of Adderall, and to spend time, as much time as they need, 3 or 4 years if they need it, to learn to get reparented. I'm going to move it off Schedule 1, and I'm going to start collecting taxes on it. That's going to bring in $8.5 billion in revenue. I'm going to dedicate that revenue to creating wellness farms, drug rehabilitation farms in rural areas all over this country. They're going to grow their own food.
You know, when you're driving out in the sticks and you pass by, you've got like the cows and the goats and the horses behind the fences or whatever. You drive past a farm and there's just a bunch of like mid-20s Silicon Valley types who are begrudgingly picking like carrots and lettuce from the ground. They've got like tired eye bags and there's an overseer who's cracking the whip.
Food, high quality food, because a lot of the behavioral issues are food related. A lot of the illnesses are food related. There won't be any cell phones there. There won't be any screens. We're going to reparent people, restore this connection to community. And I'm going to create these wellness farms where they can go to get off of illegal drugs, off of opiates, but also legal drugs, off of psychiatric drugs.
You know what people with ADHD will definitely respond well to? Being put in a boring-ass rural facility to pick crops with no phone. Gonna be blowing their damn brains out. At least then it wouldn't be the state murdering. You know, it's like a legal workaround.
They want to get off of SSRIs, to get off of benzos, to get off of Adderall, and to spend.
Pretty incredible stuff. So this is from the... Yeah, okay, that's the same background. Gotcha. Seems people liked it well enough in the town hall. You heard him say SSRIs too, right? People are going to kill themselves there. Yeah, this is one of the more baffling Trump picks, I have to say, because RFK Jr., as far as I can tell, is the only pick that there's no explanation for from a loyalty or from a effectiveness perspective. You know what I mean? Like Gates as AG, super loyal. Sure. Okay. RFK Jr. was literally selling his services. He said he'd go to the Democrats first, and then Kamala Harris didn't want anything to do with him. So it's not a loyalty thing. Like, RFK Jr. has only just stepped into this. He's not super popular outside of all the glazing that the MAGA movement has done for him. And he's not, like, he's a genuine, like, conspiratorial psychopath. I'm so confused right now, Vosh. What is the ideological or political reason why anyone would ever want to do this? The only thing that I can think of is boosting the profits of pharmaceutical companies by basically like engaging in widespread deregulation. Vaccines become quite expensive and people will pay for premium ones because now that it's kind of left up to private, you know, profit seeking, they're no longer going to be like, oh yeah, of course, the vaccine, well, it's just one vaccine, get the vaccine, you know. And now it's going to be like, oh, well, I can afford the good one from Moderna rather than the bootleg one that they got from China or something. You know, it may cost $3,000, but it's better than getting sick. So it seems like it maybe it's just like using conspiracism in a kind of radical deregulatory fashion, like in a way that you couldn't really justify or facilitate with a rational person. That being said, I don't know, man. RFK Jr. is genuinely insane. RFK just pathologically hates pharmaceuticals. There's no logic to it. Well, that's the thing. He actually doesn't. Because if you take a look at his rhetoric, he's very careful to avoid actually attacking any of the wealthy people in the pharmaceutical industry. He doesn't go after the actual companies. He talks vaguely about like specific additives or chemicals, and maybe some companies could lose money off of the banning of certain, pesticides or preservatives or whatever. And okay, sure. But for the most part, his ire is not directed against the pharmaceutical industry. He's deregulatory. I mean, that benefits the corporations. So he's basically a corpo? Well, no, I also don't think that he's deliberately doing it for the benefit of the pharmaceutical companies, because that doesn't really track with his record. Remember when he went to American Samoa and caused the death of like 80 children by discouraging, measles vaccine? I think he genuinely does it for the love of the game. There's no other way to put it. I think he's an honest to God. He might be the most sincere person in the entire Trump cabinet, because he's authentically crazy. He might actually just be a psychopath. His particular flavor of psychopathy might, it might not like meaningfully target pharmaceutical corporations, but that might just be incidental. That could just be like a product of the chemicals in his brain. It might not be underlining an ideological aversion to inconveniencing corporations. He might just be crazy in a way that Trump's okay with. It's a very weird pick, because it seems like RFK Jr. is just going to do harm for no good. Like, you could have a Republican here who would be deregulatory and not be this crazy, It's crazy. We're looking for a sane reason for an insane man. There's always a reason. People being crazy, liars, grifters, whatever, it doesn't mean that there's no reason, I'm sure, like, if we take a look at Fox News here, the way they're going to talk about the guy, I mean, we know what the lines are going to be here, but it's just, I keep seeing this in interviews and in talk shows where people on the right are obviously baffled and unnerved by RFK Jr., and they're just following the line because it's expected of them. But you can kind of tell that they're also a little bit confused.
Yeah, baby. Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld, along with Judge Jeanine Pirro, Richard Fowler, Jesse Waters, and she just got nominated to be ambassador to Candyland. F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Trump making the announcement on Truth Social saying, quote, Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions.
What power do you think Mr. Kennedy will have over banning vaccines? I've heard that's something he plans to do. Well, he now claims that he's not anti-vax, which is laughable because he keeps talking into cameras and saying that he's anti-vax, which is really hampers the message that he's trying to sell, that he's not anti-vax. He's walked it back a little bit. Obviously, being authentically anti-vax would be genuinely very anti-pharmaceutical industry. It would also be anti-human life, but it would definitely inconvenience some very powerful corporations and lobbyists if vaccines were banned. I think what he's been pushing for is vaccine choice, which to me means, yeah, vaccines are going to get a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to obtain. Because now, rather than being provided across the board, basically like at a government guarantee, like you're a little, like as a baby, you get like such and such many shots, and it's like, okay, this is for the public health. We saved a lot of lives doing that, by the way. Now it's going to be like, oh, do you want to get the extra baby care premium package for only $1,200.99 more? Of course, it's worth pointing out that vaccines don't actually work unless enough people take them. So even if wealthy and discerning individuals choose to buy vaccines for their kids as they're growing up, it might not be enough. You kind of rely on mass, like herd immunity to protect people. Vaccines aren't 100% effective, but if enough people get vaccinated, they work for enough people that the disease can't really take root and spread, Is America going to become the world's first fourth world country?
Now, let's get a bit more on our main story, the backlash that we've seen over Donald Trump's nomination as Health Secretary. BBC Verify's Merlin Thomas looks now at the controversial claims he's made in the past.
As Donald Trump prepares to enter the White House, those he chooses to bring with him will have an impact on millions of Americans. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been nominated as Donald Trump's health secretary in his second presidential term. This is what Trump said about RFK Jr. in his victory speech.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came in. And he's going to help make America healthy again.
RFK Jr. is an environmental lawyer and part of the Kennedy dynasty. He's been a vaccine skeptic for nearly 2 decades and has shared misinformation on a range of public health issues. Now, one of his main false claims, repeated in a 2023 interview with Fox News, was that autism comes from vaccines. Multiple studies across many countries have concluded there is no link between vaccines and autism.
Hold on, I just realized this video's runtime. This is nowhere near a comprehensive rundown of the stuff that he believes. Not even close. You know he's an AIDS denialist? What is a fourth world country? It's a joke. Oh, you guys didn't know that? Yeah, he thinks that AIDS isn't caused by HIV. Or he suggested it. You know, he implied it. No more PrEP. I think he said that he thinks poppers cause AIDS. So gay people are actually getting AIDS because they're like sexual deviants and not because of a disease. What are poppers? Don't worry about it. Vaccines to autism. Called the coronavirus vaccine the deadliest vaccine ever made. Promotes raw milk. Suggests AIDS may not be caused by HIV. Yes. Kennedy on poppers and AIDS. Oh, there you go. Kennedy has enthusiastically promoted an untrue link between poppers and AIDS at least since his 2021. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I assumed that this would be older. I assumed that this would be something from like the 1990s or something that he hasn't addressed as much lately. Cited the long discredited work of AIDS denialist Peter Duisberg, falsely claiming that heavy recreational use in gay men and drug addicts was the real cause of immune deficiency among AIDS victims of the 1980s, 1990s. They just spontaneously developed AIDS. It's crazy. No heterosexual people in the 1980s were doing anything that reduces their immune system response. It was all only gay people, and that's why AIDS... And the fact that AIDS spread from person to person, somehow... Even though this suggestion would be... How do you square this with the fact that in a lot of gay couplings, only one side is taking poppers? Pardon my heteronormative take on homosexual sex, but in a lot of... from personal experience, usually... it's one half of the equation. Untrue? I don't care. Yeah, switches. Both parties can take it. What the fuck? Do you know what I'm talking about? Don't worry about it. 100% of the people who died, the first 1,000 who had AIDS, were people who were addicted to poppers. Kennedy falsely told an audience of supporters in a video posted in 2023, addicted to poppers. Chat, you guys need to be less virginal right now. We're all about to die. That's statement from the Trump administration. Homosexuals and pederasts to be sent to camps. People in chat being like, what is a pederast? Can you explain what a pederast is? Just Google it. Get on board with the tone of the... Well, this is unrealistic. The Trump administration would never go after pederasts. They got one as the goddamn attorney general. Life hack, stock up on PrEP before the bad times and become a PrEP dealer. Unironically, you should get all your vaccines up to date. You definitely should. Before January 20th. Also believes in UFOs/UAPs and 9/11 conspiracies. Is a genuine nutter. No, I think he's authentic in being a nutter, to a large extent. Something you do not want to see from the, Secretary of Health and Human Services. My take on 9/11. Got notifications turned on for this shit. Waking up to see the Secretary of the Department of the Interior tweeting about Roswell or whatever. I'm like, okay. I'm going back to sleep. This is still maybe the most baffling pick to me. I'm telling you, though, Republicans also feel this way. Look.
All my kids are vaccinated, and I hope he's not going to move against one of the most life-saving technologies in the history of the world.
Do you think he was the right pick?
This is Republican politicians being informed about the RFK Jr. pick, like being ambushed by reporters. Like, hey, how do you feel about this news?
I I don't know. I'd like to see more of his opinions, more of his thoughts on different matters. But the anti-vaccine mantra scares me a lot.
Oh yeah, I do. I think it's a good pick on the president's part, as all of them have been, and he'll do a good job. People say, well, he's a Democrat. Look.
RFK Jr. isn't being approved. I think y'all are insane to think otherwise. Nuts. They're going to bring them through a vacant session. The plan, it seems, is that Thune has agreed to like play ball and host a recess so Donald Trump can get all of his picks through without the Senate voting on them. What does that mean? Do you not need a quorum? If the Senate majority leader is willing to work with you, you don't need approval for any of your picks. I want all of you to take note over the next 4 years what power the president can have if they know how to play ball and what the Democrats left on the table.
He's got an interest, he's got a passion for the medical field. He'll do a good job in it.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. Robert's a friend. I've known him now for a few years. We've been talking a lot. We've had some private meetings with myself, with other members, about what we can do to advance what I call healthcare freedom, what he's obviously referring to as make America healthy again. We've got to disrupt the big pharma, big hospital, and big insurance that are running over the average American who can't afford healthcare. You got to be able to choose the doctor of your choice. You ought to be able to have money in a health savings account, but you also we ought to be disrupting the corruption that goes on with respect to the in and out of the USDA, the NIH, and all of that. And I know that's where Robert will focus a lot of time. So,
look, I think it's important that he's continuing to fill out a cabinet, and he's making it diverse. He's bringing in Republicans, Democrats. He's bringing in people of different walks of life. You saw Tulsi Gabbard yesterday brought in, and I think he's showing that he's looking at a whole lot of different people. And
this guy has like a Buscemi-esque quality to his physiognomy, I feel.
And he's going to change the way Washington does business.
Well, get your vaccines done. Buscemi has an understated charisma. Understated. He's got aura. Anyone who disagrees is insane. Anyone, yeah, like this, it's another one of the points about like attractiveness too. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, unless your jawline such and such. Nah, you can have aura.